Good morning, Andy.
Hey, good to see you guys.
Good to see you too. Now, this stock's made quite a big rebound after we got some activist investor involved in this name after hitting all-time lows in December. But what are you guys seeing as far as data goes on Bed Bath & Beyond?
Well, what we see in our data is that the company could use some activism. I mean, it's really kind of a sad story. Not much growth there on 6 years. So these are quarterly bars of what we call purchase intent mentions. So that's people talking about actually shopping at the stores, buying the products that Bed Bath & Beyond and its subsidiaries make. So not much growth, just kind of a company that hasn't been doing much. And you can kind of see at the right side of that chart, I tried to highlight the Q4 and Q1 from 2018, comparing that to 2019, so on a year-over-year basis. And, you know, it just looks like another drop. You know, there was some hope that Bed Bath & Beyond was putting in a little bit of a turnaround, but I think, you know, that ship has sailed. We're not seeing any growth in terms of people shopping at the stores. In fact, just the opposite. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things, you go into earnings and it's going to be all about what these activists and management shakeups is going to be about, rather than how well the stores themselves are doing, because I think that negativity is a little bit baked into the cake here.
Andy, this stock has got up to a pretty busy place on the chart where it's spent a fair amount of time. But a miss here, this stock's got a low of 10.5. I mean, a miss here could be a big one.
Yeah, you know, I think that the risk is to the downside for sure, especially when you've got so much hope built in because of something external like activist investors. The core business at Bed Bath & Beyond simply isn't growing. In fact, I was talking to Jeff Mackey earlier today, and he told me, you know, it's so bad at Bed Bath & Beyond that in order to pump up their e-commerce or digital sales a year ago, they were actually having their associates in the stores ring people up on mobile devices to try to pump up that digital and e-commerce sales segment of their business. And so,
oh boy,
you know, when you're robbing Paul to pay Peter like that, it's a pretty bad situation at a company. And so it's a tough one to bet on going into earnings.
Yeah, and I did an interview on the network last week with Jan Niffen, and he's a big retail analyst, and he's like, this store is just, they're not improving. It's getting worse for this company. You're really sour on it, but we've seen that nice rebound, right. 62%, 60% since hitting all those all-time lows in December, all-time lows from post-IPO. So, but for more on social media, let's bring in TD Ameritrade Network's own Evelyn Baker. Welcome to the show.
Hi, hello, thanks. Evelyn Baker.
Hello, Governor.
So, you have any tweets for us on Bed Bath & Beyond? Because the stock price tells you that it's probably negative as far as mentioned, but the stock price has been going up.
Evelyn, we got some Eeyores painting a pretty dim picture here of
yeah, I can imagine.
What are you seeing in terms of social media?
Well, when searching for just the cash tag, I was seeing some Eeyores as far as how to trade the stock ahead of earnings. People were talking about placing puts and options and whatnot. But then I was also seeing some other talk about their competition, you know, versus Amazon or Target or other stores like Ross and TJ Maxx. Okay. And while they didn't always stack up in the mention, people are talking about Bed Bath & Beyond. Maybe not a whole lot, but it's still hanging in there. But our first tweet, I think that y'all will like, because I'm going to give you a chance to talk a little bit about March Madness. Okay. Our first tweet is from Scott Goodhart. He says, can Kyle Guy of Virginia please have his name on the wedding registry now? Hashtag Bed Bath & Beyond, hashtag wedding probs, hashtag NCAA. Yeah. Well, did you hear about this controversy?
No. This is the basketball player from Virginia, right?
What did he do?
Yeah, so he's engaged, and he had his name on a wedding registry, not for, I think it was for Crate and Barrel, but still, apparently there are some questions onto whether or not he could have this listed under his name because people wanted to send him presents, and they weren't sure if that was
violations.
Exactly, and apparently it's allowed. So if you want to send Kyle Guy a gift, you can now. But you know,
that's going to be a hard no, but good for him. I mean, that's a great way to get some good stuff. Yeah. Can you imagine the returns he's going to have?
I've registered at JP Morgan with hundreds, 50s, 20s, and 10s.
It brings to light what people use Bed Bath & Beyond for, you know? Is it still the place to go for registries and for college?
Yeah,
Andy, help.
I don't have a lot of positive
registries.
things to say.
I'm out of my element here, Andy.
Well, I am too. And, you know, if we want to talk about the NCAA tournament, we can get into that a little bit. I think, you know, Kyle Guy was the hero of the whole deal.
Yes, he was.
Right? And it's kind of interesting, like Evelyn's saying, you know, that somebody out there randomly thinking about wedding registries still thinks of Bed Bath & Beyond. I'm surprised by that anyone would, but some people are. And it's, you know, it's kind of one of those, Bed Bath & Beyond has its inertia, and that's the only thing really that it has. So, you know, maybe these activist investors can shake things up, but I think the store definitely needs a change. If you've been into one lately, it's just a crowded disaster.
Yeah. All right, Evelyn's got another tweet for us.
Yes, our next tweet is from Anita Thompson. She says, at Bed Bath & Beyond, amazed that the order I placed online on Saturday arrived on Monday. Thanks. Hashtag better than Amazon.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Go
Shots
specifically
fired!
to Amazon, right?
What across the bow?
Yeah, I find that hard to believe, but that's awesome. I mean, that's good for Bed Bath & Beyond. But I mean, Andy, looking back, I just kind of wanted to hit a little bit on the activist investor, because a lot of the viewers, a lot of traders look at this stock and you see the dismal numbers, and we see what your mentions and data is reflecting. But then you still have that activist investor in there that kind of throws a wrench into things, right?
Yeah, we see this all the time when there's a management shakeup and Wall Street is betting on a management shakeup. You know, the underlying numbers of the business can almost be put aside in a lot of these reports, and it's kind of one of those things that gets very frustrating for investors. I think you have to be very careful, because what happens is, you know, let's say you go short or you put some sort of bearish play on, the company puts out bad numbers, but you know, something significant's happening at the management level, or some strategic change that gets Wall Street excited enough to actually buy shares, and all of a sudden you're in a short squeeze situation. So you have to be really careful, I think, with these types of, you know, crossing narratives where there's, you know, one thing happening at kind of the Wall Street level, there's another thing happening at the Main Street level. I think long term, the story remains the same for Bed Bath & Beyond until further notice. This is a dying company with real problems. And so if people want to bet on a management shakeup, that's one thing, but you have to know what you're getting into when you do so.